A drunk Fox News host who can't do 2 legitimate chin-ups, and a 5-time draft dodger, felon, lecturing our military about going to war against American cities. Sick.
What the hell did we just watch? A few things. First and foremost, the one thing I noticed was Hegseth walking on stage. Hegseth walking on stage. This must have been a boyhood fantasy for this motherfucker. That's all I could say. He gonna walk on stage trying to be George C. Scott.
War, and you know we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there, and you know sometimes you have to do it. I have said
the absolute silence in that room. The silence in that room when Hegseth and Trump were speaking. And you can hear it in that clip. The silence from the generals that he brought from across the world to an event he live streamed. And all of them are sitting going, what the actual, I have a job to do. And so besides it being a massive photo op, which is what it was, just for him to show off to his dictator buddies, like, hey, I got generals too.
Roberts, word for word, bar for bar. This will be bloodless as long as the left allows it. Then we got 9 straight months of what the right? Then today, leader of the country trying to radicalize generals, telling them that leftists and Democrats are terrorists, waging war on other American citizens for no reason. This will be bloodless as long as the left allows it, radicalizing generals today.
Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited meeting with the generals between Hegseth and Donald Trump definitely happened today. And let's say there's quite a lot of things that they are trying to streamline and put in place. And it has left a lot of veterans and a lot of Americans unsettled. And they have quite a lot to say, according to their observations and how they interpreted this whole entire meeting. But from what it looks like, they think the enemies of America that are outside, they should be happy because everything is being shown to them. So there's nothing hidden anymore. And also, they're telling those that are hoping to join the military, it's not worth it. But hey, welcome back to the channel. My name is Gracie. I do appreciate all of you that keep supporting me on here. My members, you guys do me amazing. We are back with this episode because I brought you an episode about actually this whole entire thing and how they were about to force the generals to swear loyalty to Donald Trump. And it also looks like, actually, Trump hinted that as well. He said those he doesn't like. Yeah, we have to watch this. We'll come back and talk about it. Do me a favor, like the video. Don't forget to share, subscribe to the channel. And let me know what you think in the comment section. Did you watch it? What do you think?
Please understand the point of view of a senior U.S. military leader who got called to this meeting in Quantico that just ended. You got pulled out of your job, some of these in combat commands, to sit in a meeting in a photo op that was live streamed and could have been any. And the people you got yanked across the world to listen to included people like Hegseth, who has a series of SALT allegations, domestic abuse allegations, financial mismanagement, leaked classified information that threatened the lives of soldiers, and then just recently made sure that a number of individuals who massacred hundreds of men, women, and children unarmed at Wounded Knee were going to get their medals. And then he was followed by the President of the United States, an individual who is at the center of a PDF network investigation that is actively getting the Republican Party to cover for him, who has on numerous occasions slandered the U.S. military, losers and suckers, calling POWs weak because they got captured, destroying Veterans Affairs and the care for veterans, saying he didn't want to be around disabled veterans, attacking Gold Star families, families of men and women who have died in service to this country. fighting staff members at Arlington so he could get a photo op. This was last year. Getting soldiers to roll out the red carpet on their hands and knees for Vladimir Putin. Taking the opportunity to have a parade sponsored by an energy drink and UFC for the Army's 250th birthday. Absolutely disgracing them. And what did they have to tell you when you came all that way, right? They said, if you don't like what I'm saying, then you can leave. Motherfucker, they were never there for you in the first place. They were never there for the previous guy. They're there for the country and the Constitution and the men and women sitting next to them. That's who they're there for. So all this bullshit turning, the military from a soft, woke organization that happened to fight in Afghanistan and Iraq and multiple other conflicts throughout history into this fierce, fighting force, except you're taking a shit ton of their money, quality of care, and sending it to the border for, fences that don't work. And, using money to build your damn ballroom. Like, that doesn't fly. And they can say all these things, like they can say all these like strong words, and warrior ethos and all of that bullshit. But it's coming from weak people. It's coming from weak people. You have a guy with allegations of domestic abuse, sexual alcoholism, putting the lives of military members in jeopardy because he wanted to invite a reporter in there and put it on Signal, which is against the rules with no accountability, which the military is built on accountability, and another guy who's at the center of PDF network allegations and trying to cover that shit up with a history of trashing the military. So they can say all they want. They can say all they want. But all that did, the only thing that meeting did was to cement the disrespect that these generals have for those individuals. They can respect the position, but those individuals, all it did was just lower that respect, if there even was any. Because you have to understand, these are unserious people who are pretending to be serious, and these men and women smell through that bullshit. They absolutely do. So don't buy into the propaganda. Don't buy into all the crap, Fox and everything. Like, oh, the military loves them, and it was great. Look at these pictures. That is not the way it went. All right? You had two unserious, unprofessional, broken people talking to a room full of honorable individuals who have had bonds to this country and the Constitution and to each other forged in battle. So, yeah, just make sure you're aware of that and, don't pay attention to these assholes.
War, and we want war because we want to have no wars, but you have to be there, and sometimes you have to do it. I have said
the absolute silence in that room. The silence in that room when Hegseth and Trump were speaking. And you can hear it in that clip. The silence from the generals that he brought from across the world to an event he live streamed. And all of them are sitting going, what the actual, I have a job to do. And so besides it being a massive photo op, which is what it was, just for him to show off to his dictator buddies, like, hey, I got generals too. Hegseth announced that he was going to overhaul the inspectors general, which basically are the ones who did the report on him using Signal as a party chat and putting military lives in danger. Remember that? So he's going to overhaul that. That report has already been sent to his desk and will get lost. And then he said he's going to try to get rid of diversity efforts. He is going to try to get rid of hazing and basic training. Like, hey, you can put hands on recruits now. And he's going to get rid of, words like toxic leadership, because heaven forbid there be accountability. And he's talking to 800 plus senior leaders who live and thrive on accountability. And he's telling them, hey, I don't want you to do that anymore. So besides this being a giant waste of taxpayer money, which it was for a photo op, all these individuals did was make themselves look like fools and turn the military even more against them. The military thrives on being, obeying orders, right? And discipline. And he's trying to throw that out, and that won't happen. That won't work. These are leaders whose bonds are forged in battle, in multiple battles, over multiple years. And you have, a Fox News host and wannabe pull-up champion and an addled leader of this country. And I hate to say that, but yeah, an addled, like, where's all the discussion about, the horrible cognitive function of Joe Biden, at this point, right? When you're listening to speeches like this. Jake Tapper, where the fuck are you? So all this did was show all of these senior leaders face to face, like, who is in charge of the military right now. And it did not bring them any closer to respecting these men. It did the actual opposite, the exact opposite. So please be aware of that. One thing that will probably come out and is something that should be looked at is if there were any meetings before or after with a couple of generals privately with Trump or Hegseth, besides Chairman of Joint Chiefs of Staff. And so those are the individuals that the rest of these leaders will look out for if there were these little private meetings. Because that could be part of it too, where you bring everybody in, but then you pick to select who you think might go along with you if you did something stupid and crossed a red line and you wanted to talk to them and you had the opportunity to do that. So that is something to be aware of, and we'll see what comes out of that. But what a waste of time. Although honestly, I mean, besides the taxpayer money, I kind of like the fact that they put their buffoonish, stupidity on display for all of these generals who have a fuck to do and wasted their damn time for this kind of stuff, for this kind of bullshit, for covering up, Hegseth covering up for himself by overhauling Inspector General, and Trump just, talking about N-words, nukes, and he dropped the other N-word too, not directly, but he mentioned that and he thought that was going to get a laugh. And it was fucking silent in there for them. It's not a rally. These are professionals and people who mean business being talked to by buffoons. So I don't think it really did what they wanted it to do at all, except they'll get a couple photos out of it.
Listen. This is simply me giving a recap of what I just watched. I just watched the Secretary of Defense, or the Secretary of War, I guess it's called now, talk about the changes, and this is the part that confused me. He said we're moving back to gender neutral standards, and the gender neutral standards are the highest male standard. I don't understand how you say gender neutral and then say male directly following, but hey, what do I know? So there's that. And then he said we're not trying to kick women out, but if women no longer meet the standards, whoop-de-fucking-do. Okay, he didn't say whoop-de-do. He said, so be it. He said, if women no longer meet the standards, so be it. And then, this is the other part. This is the part that got me making a video. That we'll be able to they will be able to put their hands on recruits. And he said, well, to a certain extent, people take shit too far. The EO and IG complaint system is being revamped. There will be no more anonymous complaints, no repeated complaints. So if you report someone one time, you can't report them again. They're changing the way that people I was screen recording. Also, the beards, y'all can I feel like people gonna be like, take this down. I didn't say nothing crazy. All I said was what he said. So you could put your hands on recruits. They're revamping the EO complaints because people bitch much. And if women no longer meet the standards, whoop-de-fucking-do. And if you don't meet the standards, you're out of here, buddy. Immediately. And I think a lot of the people who are currently served recognize how dangerous this is, and even he recognizes how dangerous this is, because he said in his thing, he said that with these changes, he knows that mistakes are going to happen, and because they know that mistakes are going to happen, they're basically loosening up what will happen to leaders and people who are enforcing the change, so they won't be really penalized. He's like, oh, because mistakes happen, and if it's a real mistake, we're not going to hold it against you. There were so many people in that comment section talking about, oh, this is amazing. Finally, we have leaders who blah, blah. You better get your boots. Since y'all are so excited for what is about to happen to the military, and you know what's crazy? Everybody that was saying that shit in the comments, well, everybody that I saw and I clicked on their page, it's not giving military. It's not giving service member. It's not giving I've ever served. So the ranks are about to dwindle. They're about to dwindle. So everyone that's so excited for the change, get ready to serve. Get ready to serve.
Follow my backup page. I'll post this there too. I'm probably going to be spam posting today because I'm freaking the fuck out. This feels like the fucking last leg to me, dude. Kevin Roberts, word for word, bar for bar. This will be bloodless as long as the left allows it. Then we got 9 straight months of what the fuck, right? Then today, leader of the country trying to radicalize generals, telling them that leftists and Democrats are terrorists, waging war on other American citizens for no reason. This will be bloodless as long as the left allows it, radicalizing generals today. This will be bloodless, radicalizing generals. This will be bloodless, telling the generals that the leftists are terrorists. This will be bloodless, saying Antifa is a terrorist organization. This will be bloodless as long as the left allows it, sending the military to Democratic cities, telling them to use force. You'll put science in front of them about vaccines, they'll say bullshit. You'll show Donald Trump some fucking bullshit that makes him believe that Portland is a war zone, and he'll say, hell yeah, send our soldiers. Doge went after waste and fraud? You think Donald Trump is giving cash to all of these soldiers? That's your taxpayer dollars. Y'all were sharing about USAID ending, like all of that money was just gonna flow to your pockets. You think sending the military pointlessly across the country? That's some bullshit show of strength? That's some additional step in Project 2025 to take over the country? You think that shit is cheap? They don't give a fuck about immigrants, and they still drop millions on them deportation centers. You know what I'm saying? They don't readily give a fuck about the soldiers somehow, but they spend the money to transport them, house them, feed them, arm them. It ain't free. What happened to Doge? Where's Elon? Where the fuck is your 50-cent gas? This will be bloodless as long as the left allows it. Ignoring court orders, Supreme Court has fallen, Congress has fallen, Supreme Court said profiling is legal, radicalizing generals is the last step. Donald Trump has already ordered a U.S. general to shoot protesters in the leg, and the general at that time said no, honoring his oath. Because why the fuck would a U.S. soldier randomly shoot a U.S. citizen? What the fuck? But this time around, he needs to have an entire meeting with every general to spew this bullshit lie of America is just in the shitter because of the leftists and the Democrats. What are we going to do? So that next time when he gives a similar order, North America, North Korea, twinning them.
What the hell did we just watch? Anybody have any thoughts or ideas? Because I'm out. What did we just see? What did we just witness? All I know is I noticed quite a few things. First and foremost, the one thing I noticed was Keg's breath walking on stage. Keg's breath walking on stage. This must have been a boyhood fantasy for this motherfucker. That's all I could say. He can walk on stage trying to be George C. Scott and Patton. I thought that was fucking hilarious. You know, I was waiting for him to start going, I want you to remember that no bastard ever won a war by dying for his country. I was just waiting for him if I could say some dumb shit like that. Look, Pete, if you... Oh, I'm sorry. But Pete, the one that you fucked up on a few things. I know you were trying to cosplay Patton, but you really fucked up because you should have come out there with a piss pot, a chrome piss pot on your head that was blackened. You should have come out there with 5 stars on that motherfucker. You should have had a horse crop. You should have come out there with horse leggings. And you should have come out there with the white gloves or black gloves, either one. And you should have had, it's ivory handle pistols, not pearl handle. But I guess in your case, pearl handle pistols, right? So you should have had those, and you should have had the boots, the black boots, right? The riding boots. Anyway, needless to say, that man is not George C. Scott. He couldn't be Patton if he tried. I mean, shit. Either way, that just goes to show that was literally all more about these two, or those two buffoons, and their photo op. It had nothing to do about warrior ethos. I mean, don't make me laugh. The men and women in that room have skivvy shorts with more time in service than he does. and more service to country than either of them do combined, with every second of their existences combined. They have more, the men and women in that room have more professionalism in each of their, all of the cells in one of their left pinkies, in their left pinky, than those two do in their entire body. The men and women in that room have one other thing that those two will never have. They have the respect of the men and women under their command, largely. I would bet any day of the week on that, twice on Sunday, and win. The military is about professionalism. We're about getting the job done. We're not about politics. We don't have time for that shit. We are about, see, the Marine Corps defines discipline a little differently than all the other branches. I didn't say better. Differently. No branch is better than the other. We're not about being better. We're on the same team. Different missions on how we execute, but we're all on the same team. It's like a football team. Offense, defense, special teams. One side isn't better than the other. The way the Marine Corps defines discipline is the instant willing obedience to all orders, respectful authority, self-reliance, and teamwork. These are things that neither one of the two buffoons that were speaking to the men and women wearing many stripes, many rockers underneath those stripes, diamonds, whatever the case may be, and stars. How are you going to lecture those people? How? This is what these men and women do. Day in, day out, 24/7. They live and breathe this stuff. I'll bet you any amount of money that every one of the men and women in that audience read books. I'm pretty sure that they read some very deep books. Some books I'm not going to discuss here. But I guarantee you each and every one of them have read cover to cover Sun Tzu, The Art of War. Right? It's required reading at Officer Candidate School. I read it and knew it cover to cover by the time I was a Lance Corporal in the Corps, let alone before I became a Corporal. Do you know why I did that? I did that so that it would I did that because I knew one day I was going to be an NCO. And I also knew that one day I was going to be working closely with an officer. Don't you think it's important? It's incumbent upon me to understand the way an officer might think about things, and it's incumbent upon me to understand my role as a professional leader of men and women. I am the one that the lieutenant, at the time anyways, I would be the one that the lieutenant would come to and be like, what are the troops thinking? They're not going to know this. That's why we're here. When I became a sergeant and then a staff sergeant, that's exactly the way it was as well. So I had a good base for that. What do you think these men and women have? They flew, some of them, halfway around the fucking world. Off of commands that people will never fucking know about. Places most people can't fly without a smartphone and won't, you know. What the fuck do you think they do? What the fuck do you think they know? Come on. Sit there and be lectured on military culture, on warrior culture from a couple of motherfuckers who are the complete opposite of what they try to preach? Come on. If that meeting accomplished anything at all, besides, you know, putting those men and women face to face with, you know, their buffoonery, if it accomplished anything, you accomplished all the way around the simple fact that the military is and has no reason to have any faith in you. I'm not talking to the American people. I'm talking about Keg's Breath and the Orange Buffoon. They have zero reason to respect those two. None. Now, MAGA, I already know what you're going to do. I mean, you're going to just go along with everything that those two say and do because, you know, you're not going to join the military. You're not stupid. Especially when you heard Keg's Breath talk about how they're bringing back the hands-on policy. You know what that means. This is what you wanted. The thing about it is, if it comes down to a draft, we know you're going to be the ones trying to sneak outside the country. We know that. Blagger, we already know that you guys have your passports donned and ready, and most of you have already left and gone to Thailand. We know that. We get it. Your wet dream of having a military full of Democrats that need to be whipped into shape while you have ICE agents that have more luck catching donuts than they do catching the delivery guy on a bicycle. Yeah, that's never going to happen. Never. So, I just leave you with this. Things are not going the way you planned because this is not 1930s Germany. I know that's what you want. I know that's what you voted for. It's never going to work out that way. Never. Because the first thing you should have done on day one was find a way to turn the military against the civilian populace. Because of the way our country is structured, because of the things that we have learned from World War II, from defeating Germany and Imperial Japan and all that stuff, we've learned not to be that way. Yet you want to try to bring that back somehow? The military is your key. And since I didn't see not one clap, not one laughter, I didn't hear one bout of laughter, they weren't impressed. So that tells me the military is like, what, you want to turn America into the Fourth Reich and we're the key? Yeah, fuck you. You can fire a bunch of people in leadership positions. It's just never going to work. So, to the American people, I say, rest assured, your military is never going to turn on you. We will not. I'm retired. And I still know the pulse of the military. They're never going to do that. Yes, you may have a few sociopaths. They can go and join ICE. ICE's days as an agency are numbered. I promise you that. I think the days of INS are going to come back in the next administration. So, just remember, our oath does not expire. I promise that.
I tried watching that shit today, and that was the biggest waste of my day. And I spent more than 10 minutes just staring at the fucking ceiling in absolute silence. Listening to Trump talk is like listening to a 10-year-old that's got applesauce for brains. Just, that man does not need to be doing any more public speaking. Unfortunately, he's the president. He's going to do a lot, but half of what he said up there was just a bunch of nonsense that he's been saying on and on and on and on for shit since he's been reelected and even before. Not that I want to hear J.D. Vance. I really don't. But I'd rather listen to him than listen to Trump speak. Trump is just... The man's on his way out. Just let him go. Give him a Happy Meal and let him fucking walk his way to the door. Pete Hegseth shit that he went up there saying today, talking about, nothing's off the table, let our war fighters do what our war fighters do. No rules, no laws. That's a bad move. That's a bad fucking move. Some of this shit, some of these people want to do are straight war crimes. And if you allow it, for those soldiers saying I was just following orders, it didn't work the first time, it's not going to work again. The international community will come down on you. Geneva Conventions is there for a reason. Let's follow it. Training should be harder. I agree with that part. But taking the handcuffs off and letting our war fighters do whatever it is they feel like they want to do, that's a bad move. And that's going to cause a lot of problems. We don't need that. But overall, again, watching this press conference is the biggest waste of my day. And if it was a waste of my day, I feel bad for every single one of those officers that were there that had to put up with that shit. And they felt some kind of way too, because when the commander-in-chief walked on stage, silence. Complete fucking silence. That should tell you something.
Well, we've seen Pete Hegseth's speech to the military leadership, and it was everything I feared it would be. So, Texas Paul, hope your coffee's as good as mine. Hell, I hope it's better. Again, don't panic. I'm not panicked. You don't panic. What he said was exactly what I feared. That we would be now having a white nationalist and misogynist agenda in our military, and that they would be culling senior leadership. Pete Hegseth didn't say they would be culling senior leadership. He said they could resign if they want to, but Donald Trump, who has no control anymore due to his mental decline, he said the quiet part out loud on his way to the meeting. He said he would be meeting with generals and firing the ones he doesn't like. So yeah, don't panic. There's no need. It's over. They're going to do what they're going to do. The sun has still come up. Your children still need to get to school. Your job is still there. There is time to deal with this, and we will deal with this. There's no need to panic. The worst thing that you could possibly do is to become violent. Remember, every protest that we have, protesting is good, but every protest we have is an opportunity for the white supremacists to do what they did in the last protests, which were false flags. We had the old boy here from Texas that went up to Minneapolis and shot up the police station in the middle of the George Floyd protest. They will do stuff like that, folks. This is a white nationalist move. They're going to support it. So we have to be careful. No violence, because this time next year, this is not what our country's going to look like. We're going to have a lot of battles between now and the midterm elections. We are. And we're going to have to fight them smart. Don't panic. We're going to be okay. A country of 330 million people that don't want to be governed this way can't be governed this way.
The military just became so much more dangerous for women. In 2004, when I was 19 and stationed overseas, I was strangled and assaulted by a military officer. Now, mind you, this was 1 year before the anonymous reporting option came out, which helped advocate for victims' assault. And today, Pete Hegseth described how he's going to roll back those changes. I can tell you the hell that it is when you report something in the military as a young 19-year-old E2 stationed overseas. I'll leave out all of the details, but it wasn't someone I knew, and they were tried in a court of their peers and sentenced to prison. So justice was served. It was the scariest thing I've ever been through in my entire life. It would have happened a year later. I would have had many more resources to help me.
So I am sick and tired of Pete Hegseth lying about women in the military and standards, okay? Our Secretary of War consistently insults every woman who has served and has met the combat standards that have always been equal. Most women in the military I know, women vets, could actually care less about what this insecure man has to say about us. But considering he has a platform and considering he continues to lie, I think it's really important to say the truth. So here's the truth. Since combat roles have been opened for qualified women, there have always been one standard for those jobs. Flying a fighter jet, for example. There was never a men's standard and a women's standard for flying. Never. There wasn't a men's standard or a woman's standard to be an artillery officer or an infantryman. There wasn't a men's standard or a woman's standard to be a tanker or to be on a submarine. There was always one standard. Always. It's a slap in the face and offensive to suggest otherwise. You are diminishing the service of thousands of women who have met the standard, the one standard, or exceeded them 100%. I think there's some confusion sometimes around administrative standards, okay? Administrative standards are things that test people when they come into the service, or maybe annual measures of health and fitness, and those are based on age. Some of them are based on height and weight, which are different for lots of different people. And yes, some are based on gender. Those are administrative standards. They are not the same as combat job standards. All combat job standards have always been the same from day one. Let me repeat, all combat job standards have always been the same from day one. So don't believe Pete Hegseth. The standards have never been lowered. Yeah, my dog doesn't believe him either. Okay, the standards have never been lowered. There's always been one standard.
I just listened to Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth's address to the top leadership in the armed forces. And I've got to say, if I were an adversary of the U.S., I would be popping bottles right now celebrating, because that was a disaster on so many levels and an absolute embarrassment to our country. Now, look, there are certainly other meetings taking place while all of our top military leadership is in Quantico. But to live stream what we just saw was moronic at best. Donald Trump is barely awake. He is clearly unwell. He is not stringing together coherent sentences, and spent his time talking about there being two N-words that you can't say, nuclear and you know what word. This is what he's talking about in his address. And then there's Pete Hegseth, who sounded more like an angry high schooler, talking about grooming standards and the warrior ethos. This was an embarrassment.
The kids that are planning and hoping to join, yeah, they are making it obvious that those that will be training you are allowed to put hands on you. And mistakes are expected to happen out of this. And the people that have done the so-called mistakes are not going to be held accountable. Accountability is not a thing anymore, because it's work. Work. It's work. But I thought this entire military thing is actually about accountability and people that are highly disciplined. In Uganda, or in the region of East Africa, it is believed that the Ugandan army, the Ugandan military, is one of the best behaved militaries in the region. Yeah. That's because they have the thought of accountability in mind, but also they know that they are to protect, not to assault. I'm just saying. And it looks like Donald Trump wants to unleash, this maximum pain and force onto the cities. He wants the blue states to be training grounds. You know, I'm saying these things because, first of all, I'm looking away. No, because what I'm saying, I'm not sure. No, I am sure of what I'm saying because I've listened to the 40 minutes whole thing, right? But I am saying all these things in disbelief. That's why I'm looking away. Like, he takes waging war on his enemies to another war level. I mean, it is a dictatorship. He said those generals that he does not like, he will fire them. Yeah. About the grooming, those men that keep the beard, of course you know who he's targeting. Some men have been giving excuses of, because of my beliefs, because of my religion, that's why I don't cut my beard. No more. So if you're a Muslim, forget about it. Which other religion don't cut beards? I don't know others, but I've seen some black men keeping their beard. No more. And I think a lot of people that have been in the military, they are like, you know, these are the standards. This is the military needs to be strict. If you guys agree, I think I would agree with you because who am I to argue with you? So I don't know about this whole whatever military standards, but I think behind the whole grooming thing, it's about actually getting rid of some people. That is the logic behind. You Muslim, you're not supposed to join. If you fight, you'll be tested. I mean, people need to be like physically fit. Like they should be in position to, you know, yeah. So that is okay, right? But at the same time, most of these generals are also, you know, old people. They probably won't be able to even go to war or anything like that. But old is gold. So they have all of this. They have to be trained. So, and I think it takes me to something that I thought about because I think it was last year when they were talking about forcing young people to be recruited in the military. And a lot of Americans came and reacted harshly towards this. So I'm wondering, are they trying to get rid of these people because you cannot indoctrinate these people so you can start with another entire whole generation that you can indoctrinate? That's why quite the veterans and the people that are reacted in here, they're like, you know what? It's not worth it for your kids to join this. A lot of people that have served in this, when they look at this, they're like, it's not worth it anymore. But I think for the very, very most important people to be brought in one room only for them to be told about fitness and also to be told how they can wage war on Americans. Like, which world do we live in? I do not come from a perfect place. I know that we have our own issues. I know a lot of people be wondering, but you know, when I say I have family in America, just know me and black people are tied like this. Because at the end of the day, some of these sentiments that these people have expressed in here, we know who they are going to target the most. Women, you have to be ready if you want to join. They have every right to be like, nah, you're not qualified. You don't fit to. This is going to be for palm-colored men. And I know, isn't it good news that they put their own who are so little because they are almost extincting. They put them on the line and send them. Good. I'm sorry to say that. I sound so terrible saying that. I do. Like, I shouldn't be excited at the thought that someone is literally gonna be taken out fighting wars of billionaires. I should not. But what are we supposed to do when these are the same people that voted this man to come in office, and these are the plans that he has for you? The standard of masculinity is supposed to be a white man, Christian white man, national, like a nationalist. If you do not swear your loyalty to him, then you deserve every bad thing to happen to you, because he says it on open screen that he hates his enemies. Even if that would require those enemies to be Americans, he hates them. You understand? That's how it all went down. You know how risky that is? And they all sat down and they were all quiet. We don't know what they have to say, because a lot of them will come out later to tell us what they thought about this entire thing. Some of the ones that are played in here, some of them are in service, some of them are, retired. But I'll be ready to actually bring... I'm like intrigued and so curious to know, what do those people that were seated down there, what was running in their heads? But that's the man that is in office. I want you guys to let me know, because I think I'm talking too much. If you watched this entire thing, what were you thinking? Like, what was going on in your head? Anywho, I'll see you guys later. My name is Gracie. I do love all of you. I want you guys to stay safe, protected. Watch over each other and protect your tribe, because the blue states, you're about to have it rough.